Good morning. I'm thrilled to be here with you this morning. The opportunity to come and speak to all of you is really a really wonderful moment. So thank you for being here. I want to talk to you just briefly about my thoughts about and my methodologies for employee and customer engagement. And, you know, in the passport world where I work, everyone has a story. And the stories generally come from our customers. And, you know, they go to take the vacation of a lifetime. They get to the gate, they're ready to board the plane, and they're told they don't have enough validity on their passport. So they come to our agency in Connecticut with their luggage in hand, desperately trying to get a new passport so they can get back to their trip. And we have customers who, you know, they are in loss because of instances like Hurricane Irma and Harvey, and they come to us because they need to redocument themselves. We have customers who come because they've been newly naturalized and they're excited to come and get their first passport. We have customers who have life and death emergencies and they need to go and care for their sick or dying relatives. And these stories intersect with our employee stories, much of which are the same. You know, they have sick and dying relatives, and they're overcoming illnesses, and they have, you know, difficult family situations, divorce, relocation. And so it can be a very stressful environment, right? And we're told as professionals that we need to leave our personal stuff at the door. But I would posit that really what we need to do is to know our employees' stories, know our customers' stories, and bring genuine compassion and empathy with us for them. And also, you know, sometimes we have to make ourselves vulnerable. And I'm sure in your adult careers and in your personal life, there have been moments that have been pivotal for you, that have shaped who you've become and have shaped the decisions that you've made. And if you'll allow me to just illuminate for you very quickly a personal story of mine that will kind of bring you to why I have a paradigm that I do about employee and customer engagement. I learned a lot in the hospital. I had twins 12 weeks early, and you know, I was lucky enough to be able to bring my daughter Brooke home after about 6 weeks in the NICU. She had a hole in her heart. She couldn't hear yet. Her lungs were a little underdeveloped. She was about the size of my forearm when I took her home. She barely fit in the car seat. But she didn't have any needs to have major surgeries or anything, and they let us take her home. Unfortunately, my son was not in the same situation. He was in the hospital for more than a year. They transferred him to Yale on the day he was supposed to be born. And he had brain surgery. He had a trach, he was on a ventilator with oxygen, he had stomach surgery, he had a feeding tube placed, which is still there. He got meningitis after his brain surgery, he got MRSA in the hospital. I mean, honestly, you think to yourself, really, could anything else happen to this poor kid? But I'll tell you, he's a special person because this child was the happiest person in the NICU. He was probably happier than most of the nurses. And because he was so happy, people from all over Yale, volunteers, nurses, care staff, people would come and see him because he was happy. He watched Elmo. You know, he couldn't walk or crawl or talk or eat or do anything, but he'd jump up and down in his bouncer, and you know, the newspaper would come and they would interview us and take pictures of him because he was really an inspiration to people. And, you know, there were a lot of times when I thought, you know, this can't get any worse, but then I would come and I would look at his smiling face and I would say, it's going to be okay. And his sister and him didn't really get to know each other till they were a year old. You know, we had one baby at home and we had one in the hospital, and my husband and I did what I would call tandem single parenting. So we were single parenting in different locations. You know, there were a lot of difficult moments, but at the end of the day, what I learned in this situation was that you don't have control over much. But when you're sitting in the hospital, you have to find a way to cope. And the way that I learned to cope with my analytical brain was to do research and to ask questions. And I probably drove people nuts. But I would do research, I would take notes on what the doctors and nurses were telling me, I would do the research, I'd text my husband back and forth, and I would write down well-informed, thoughtful questions that I could ask the staff every time that I saw them. It was the only thing I could do. And so my husband and I look back now, because really, when he went to Yale, he got worse and worse and worse. And it was these questions that we asked, that persistent questions too, that really forced the chief pulmonologist to say, something is not right here. Let's get all of these specialists together in one room and talk this out and try to figure out what's going on. And that's what they did. And they ordered up a menu of tests, and turned out he had hydrocephalus for 6 months. And his brain was swollen, which was causing him to have trouble breathing and have fevers. And unfortunately, he was already trached at that point, but at least they knew what to do. And a lot of these procedures ensued after that. So what I realized, and of course there's a happy ending to this, but what I realized is that, when I was going to leadership courses a little bit later after I went back to work, is that I had actually been using the art of appreciative inquiry. And David Cooperrider, who is the author of this, states that asking the right questions can bring transformational changes, and the creation of new ideas gives people new ways to solve old problems. And this method has really not only been transformational for my family, but also it has been for my workplace. And I thought in this leadership course, if this was so impactful in my life, my personal life, how could I make this impactful in my workplace? And so, of course, I did more research, and I put together an appreciative inquiry training for my staff. Because what I noticed is they would go to the counter to help a customer, and they'd walk in with assumptions, right? I've done this 100 times before, I've fixed this problem before, so I'm just going to do what I've always done. But that isn't always the case, because everybody has a story, right? Everybody has a unique situation. So to walk in and give an assumption is not going to help you. And to be perfectly honest with you, the Olivia Pope in me wants to go to the counter and fix it quickly and fix it neatly. But when you go to try to fix it, you eliminate options, right? Because you're not open. So if you can come into the situation and ask a well-informed question like, could you tell me more about your situation? What could we do to improve your customer experience? Or what was good about your customer experience today? Ask a question. It works with your staff too. You make assumptions when you read emails, right? Go to your staff and ask a question. The other thing that I learned from David Cooperrider was about provocative propositions. And these really are just statements that help people kind of envision their future in the best possible terms. And so when I did this AI training with staff, I decided I would have people from all over the agency, all different functional areas come, and we would write individual possibility statements that were focused on internal and external customer service. So everybody wrote these statements. We took pieces of all of these statements and we made an agency statement and we put it on a poster. Everybody signed it. It's hanging on the wall in the agency. And it's a reminder to people that this is what your commitment is to your colleagues and to your customers. And it keeps them engaged. There was a counselor leadership day that we have. This is something we do in the Bureau every year. And we do all these activities, and we had an exercise once, and the exercise basically asked all of the staff, what do we do well in this organization? Is it our customers that we're really good with? Is it our processes? Is it budget? Is it our people, our staff? And they were asked to go to different parts of the room depending on which element they thought we did a really good job with. Now, as you can imagine, most of them went to customers. A good amount of them went to process, a couple went to budget, 2 people went to people. That was an aha moment for me. I had just transitioned from being a program manager in customer service to an assistant director of an agency, which is more of a leadership role, and I thought in that moment, is this really what they think? We have to do a better job of this. And so the tool that I use to engage the staff are employee forums. And there's a handout that I provided out there for you if you'd like to conduct your own. But I invite people from all over the agency in different functional areas to come and we discuss a topic, whether it's, lessons learned from our busy season or trying to, evaluate the customer experience. We sit down and we use a bunch of different methodologies, brainstorming, process mapping, value analysis, pick charts, and we take the best things that have the most impact, that take the least amount of resources, and we try to implement those right away. And we use project charters, and we have little working groups of people who kind of push these things forward, develop metrics, and kind of, assess the value of it, make sure it's working. And we've had 14 of these now in the last 2 years. And I've watched the staff morale grow. I've seen people get excited about change, which is, in this climate, a really difficult thing to do. But when you engage all of your staff in this process, whether you need their input or not, if you include them in the process of even just implementing a simple policy, you're going to get their buy-in. You're going to see their morale improve. You're going to see less unscheduled leave. You're going to see, better retention. And you're going to see people want to drive through innovation. So Ian Van Zandt says that you need to take the action that changes the structure of your being. I would posit that you must take the action that will change the climate of your organization. All of us have the ability to connect with our employees and our customers and to encourage others to do the same. So if you can do this, be true to yourself, ask really good questions, try to make a habit of it. You can transform not only how you come through in your organization, but how others do. And this will set you up to leave a legacy for the next generation of leaders that come behind you. So I would encourage all of you to try some of these methodologies, and I hope that they work for you the way they've worked for me. Thank you so much.